Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. Wherever you are, we'd like to welcome you to another interesting edition of our program, the Justice Forum. As we've indicated to you in our announcement quite recently, we are pleased and glad to have with us a prominent son of Liberia. We've come to look at issues of justice as we do regularly here on the show. We bring in individuals eminent, prominent in their field to be able to look deeply at what is prevailing within the context of humanity. Today, we're going to be looking at the state of good governance, justice, and human rights in Liberia. It is indeed a great opportunity that we can be able to have with us here today. A justice advocate, Counselor Jerome Verdier. He's joining us. Let me welcome you, Counselor, to the Justice Forum. This is your first appearance on the show. Uh, Liberia is at a very critical time in the history of that West African state. You have played a pivotal role in the past. In the present, you are also fighting vehemently to ensure that justice will reign in the land, that good governance will be something that we will continue gravitate to upholding and ensuring that human rights are deeply respected within the context of not only Liberia as a nation state, but Liberia being a co-signer of many treaties. And there are credible indications as we speak, as we sit here this morning, that the state of affairs in the country is quite gloomy. Let me welcome you, first of all, to the show. And to take the kick off, I will ask a social justice question, imperatively linking it with ethics and faith. How is it with your soul, brother? And as you sit there, the land is bleeding, is crying, and is yearning for freedom. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Reverend Doc, for inviting me, and I'm honored to make this meeting edition. We want to thank God for His mercy and His grace, who has created this time for us to meet and discuss these issues. God is good, and He has been good to me all my life. From the time I got to know Him, we have built a good relationship, and He's the arbiter of my destiny. And we pray that Liberia will be returned to God, and God will take control of that nation. We look forward to a new Liberia after all that has happened, the war, different crises. Now we are undermined by corruption and bad governance. Whatever the case, whatever the case, we thank God for everything.
That's that's wonderful, and you sound quite tired, as some eyes and those in the freedom struggle will always continue to press on in the midst of everything that is prevailing. If if we can begin, let's first of all look at human rights. Uh, the prevailing circumstances at home. I was reading just a brief portion of the executive summary of the 2022 Human Rights Report on Liberia. It's quite damning. There's just a lot going on in the country in terms of violations of rights, extrajudicial killings, cruel, inhumane treatment, punishment by government, harsh, life-threatening prison conditions. I was talking to a justice advocate just yesterday from Liberia about the prison system, and the list goes on and on. Uh, Most times these things will happen and even would take place. Uh, a typical example would be the recent killing of Chalo Musu. I listened to you on another network where you were trying to lay the premise, the case, as to what had transpired. Let me raise the moral question today. Uh, as a person within the justice community, and you've said quite keenly, and I'm aware that you are a person of faith as well. Do we have any clarity, any understanding as to where that case is now? It has dwindled considerably, and I listened to a pastor who is part of the Musu family indicating just a fortnight ago from the compounds of the Justice Ministry in Monrovia as to how they are being treated, and the body has been withheld at the St. Moses Funeral Home. And the government now says it's conducting an autopsy. Where do we stand on that case? And just how do you find it as a person who's advocating and speaking on some of these challenges that we face as a nation where there is no transparency, no accountability, and unreported or reported murders that have taken place in the past? The issue that has to do with the auditors, the three missing boys. It goes on and on. And there is no accountability up to now. There's no real, tangible, and genuine report or independent report or an independent autopsy can say these are the findings.
Well, in the beginning, you asked about my soul, and I can see and respond, it is well with my soul, but it is not well with the soul of our republic. There is trouble. There is innocent blood being shed. There is miscarriage of justice in Liberia. There is no respect for the rule of law. And the country is in a terrible shape, if I may just say. And relative to the issue of Justice Cllr's card, and you tied in with all of the other killings, we have taken upon ourselves to investigate and find out what is happening in most of those cases. And we endeavor to make our findings known. And in all of what we have done, the government is complicit in all of those terrible, heinous crimes. And what I told some folks recently about the Moses Cast case is that the government will not investigate itself. And so the case is a cold case. The government will not endeavor to dig out the fight or pursue the truth. Innocent child has been killed, and that is the cold end as far as Liberia is concerned. And that's how it has been for all other cases. Ministry of Justice is not concerned, police is not concerned, Nobody is concerned. The president is not concerned. The state is not concerned. And so injustice reigns. And that is a curse for our country, where there is law and there are violations. There are no consequences. That's why we term Liberia sometimes back a gangster's paradise. The criminals and the gangsters are having a free time, enjoying themselves, doing whatever they want to do. It's their paradise. And that's the kind of nation, that's the state of affairs of what we have, with Mr. Weah being at the head of it. It's very unfortunate, but that's the situation. No justice, no rule of law, no equal rights, impunity, criminality is the order of the day. It's an unfortunate situation, but that is where we are.
So you are in the United States, just as we are. I'm wondering what needs to be done, what is being done, what should be done by diaspora Liberians to begin to exert considerable pressure on this particular administration in Liberia, the Weah administration. For instance, talk to me, if you could, about the auditors. One of those prominent among the auditors was Emmanuel Batten Yensua. May his soul rest in peace. Batten and I, to some level, interacted many, many years ago in high school. I'm wondering what has become of that. Are there fundings to clearly delineate what you have probably uncovered with that particular situation, in keeping with the very fact that you are persistent and you continue to advocate for the rights of people in Liberia, and these extrajudicial killings that are taking place? Even the very human rights report indicates, not conclusively, but the government is involved in this particular process. And the situation that is unfolding in Liberia regarding the lack of transparency, justice, the rule of law, the judiciary, the corruption, and everything that is taking place in the country. People who are listening today, those who are watching you, what can you say to that? If we may take as a case study the issue with the death of Auditor Emmanuel Batten Yensua.
I had previously said that the government is complicit in all of the murders. The 3 missing boys, that one was an act carried on by the head of state himself. He called for those boys. He kept them in his house as sex slaves. And when he got tired using them, he gave instructions that they should be killed because their families have been clamoring for them. Their families said they believe that they are still alive. And so if he releases the children, they will expose what has happened. And those boys begged for their lives, promising on their lives that they wouldn't expose him. They wouldn't say anything. They would remain quiet. And he said no, he didn't believe them. And he ordered that they be zeroed, they be dibida, that they be killed. That one is on the president's hands himself. And Mr. Moses Awuzra, the owner of the Moses Funeral Parlor that the government is in business with, was the one who was called to clean up the mess. He was the same one who lured the children to Mr. Weah's place. He was the same one. He lured the children to Mr. Weah's place, and Mr. Weah held them captives as sex slaves. And when he was tired, he got rid of them. The family remains persistent that the children didn't die of any canoe capsized. They said there were, I think, 6 persons. We have not seen the other 3 who survived. They said 3 died, and they created a scene to make it appear as if there was a canoe that capsized. I don't want to go into the scene, but we saw it. We reviewed the photograph, and obvious flaws are visible. We don't know who are the other 3 who they said survived. There were no 3 that survived. There was no canoe capsized. Moses brought those children over to Mr. Weah. Mr. Weah held them in his house for all that time. And when they were useless to him, he got rid of them. That is the case. Patton Yinsua, like you, was a friend. We weren't classmates in college or so, but we sat on the same bench in church. And we were in the same church organization. I was a lay reader at the time, and he was in that organization. And there was a time I led the lay readers, and he was part of that. We sat together on the same bench. And the last time I saw him, I went to do a training at the Auditing Commission, General Auditing Commission, when I was back then in Liberia. And that's when we met and interacted. I mean, outside of the church.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it was very unfortunate that that happened. His wife happened to be a former student of mine, a very smart, industrious lady. I taught her in high school. And his case is linked to the case of all the other auditors. The auditors were performing their audit of the government's accounts, of the COVID money, and they came up with startling revelations. And the Minister of Finance became aware. And they approached the children, the different auditors, and told them they wanted them to do something about it. And those auditors, including Gifted Lama, said, "We are professionals. That's not how we're trained. It's our profession. But anyway, we have a boss. So go to the boss. He's the
Hmm.
one. We present a report to him eventually. So go to him. For us, we do our report, we present it the way it is." And so they went to Baten Yiswa, and to where the finance minister prevailed on him. And he said, "I've interacted with those boys, with my staff, with the team, and their report is their report. I cannot use any pressure, it's unprofessional, on them to change their report. And their report is the way it is. You know, and so there's nothing I can do. If that is the case you're interested in, then we will go from step 1 to the end on how he was killed and
Yeah.
who are
Yeah.
items were
Yeah.
involved in there.
Would you like to elaborate a little for the benefit
You
of
know, so
our listeners?
Battanians were finally called the finance minister, or when the finance minister called him, he told him there's nothing I can do, and he remarked to somebody that these people think we are stupid. We were trained, we are professionals, we did our work, and they want us to act the fools to turn everything that we have done around as if nothing happened.
Mm.
How can that be? And in his conversation with the finance minister, he has said, and there were witnesses prior to his death, that no, we cannot do anything about it. You wanted me to try, I tried, I did my best. and their report will be the way it is. Their report is their report. I cannot bring any pressure on them. Then he said of the health minister, he said, look at this woman. These people have dry face in stealing. This woman created so ghost COVID centers. And from our report, they do not exist. And they took all that money and she shared it with she and her friends or co-conspirators. And they want us to clean the mess as if we don't know what we're doing. That was the health minister. So it was an orchestrated plan. Batten had a female companion, and they wanted him to go out to a local hangout at night, a local nightclub, yes. And he told them, well, you got to tell my girl. She's with me everywhere we go and all of that. So if she's okay with it, that will be fine. And then Mr. James Thompson from the Civil Service Agency is the head. So he called her and said, look, I want to treat you guys. I want to treat you guys and let's go out this evening. She said, well, okay, thank you, but we found out from Batten, and she met with Batten, called him up, but Batten had made up his mind. He was just waiting for her to confirm, and she told Batten, look, there's been a spate of murders of your honor men. So we should be concerned about this. I don't think you should be hanging out and all of that. And prior to that, Batten had received information. He went in Nima County for a program. So he received that information. Information told him, if I were you, you would just stay in Nimba, find your way out of Liberia and do not come to Monrovia. Forget it and go. And so when he came, he told the witness, this is what I have received. And so the girl said, in light of what you have received, but he said, I don't believe it. These guys are my friends. I don't think they can do it. So I don't believe what I'm hearing. All these guys are my friends. I will not believe it. And so they went out. So while they were hanging out at the bar, Mr. James Thompson from the Civil Service Agency, who invited them, they realized was not drinking. They had brought a lot of liquor on the table and they were drinking. But the man who invited them was not drinking. And so the lady told Batten, say, hey. But Batten said, well, but myself, I'm not even drinking. I'm just holding it with this one glass. Not knowing it was part of their plan to create a situation that this man was drunk and he will fall off and he will have accident at his house and all of that. And all of these people had access to his house because he was a lively, happy-go-lucky kind of person.
Yeah, very friendly.
Yes, weekends they all would gather there and they would cook. Friends would come along, they would spend the time. And in fact, he had some friends who were even living in the house there with him. So on Friday, the front door key got missing. Okay, and instead of fixing the situation right away, he thought that on Saturday after work, I will fix it. I will call the carpenters and we'll see what we can do and all of that. And it was that Saturday he was invited to go out. and so he didn't have time to do it. And one of the persons who frequented his house was Norris Tue, the brother to the finance minister. He frequents the house also. And from our investigation, I think he took the key away because he lives not very far, and he was one of those who was last at the house. So they went out. So the lady too decided not to drink as well as Batten himself wasn't drinking much, especially when he realized that the person who offered the drink party was not drinking. So everybody held their peace and were very low and or slow on the alcohol. So they went out to the Calabash. That was the name of the nightclub. So they all hang out there, and a wide table was spread with Batten's staff, junior and senior staff. Everybody was at the table and passing the night after a week of hard work. And then it was time to go. Batten decided to leave. His companion decided to leave. And guess what happened? They had Batten's car trapped in. There was a car at the middle, at the front, and a car at the back. So Batten could not move his car. He could not leave without the consent of those who were holding his car hostage. And if you are security minded, you know that it was meant to control his movement, to monitor his movement, to determine when he leaves that place so that the action at his house can be set. And that's what happened. So when Batten wanted to leave, his car was boxed in, he could not leave. And they got the owner of the hotel to the manager on duty to find out what was happening, to get the person. And finally, they got this person who had the car boxed in. And he took his time, he dragged his feet and came when it was convenient for him to leave. He drove his car away. And Batten and his female companion got in the car to leave. And as they were leaving, there was a car following them. But the plan was to drive her home. And so when Batten the detour to drive her home, they lost the car that was stealing them. And something told her she shouldn't let Batten go home alone that night. So she just grabbed a change of clothes, and Batten waited for her. And she jumped on the car and decided to go with him. But for his killers, as far as they knew, Batten dropped the lady. And when he came out of the fence, he was going home alone. So they didn't know that she was with him at the house. They didn't expect her to be with him at the house. And he went home, and Batten took time that night playing with the dog. Didn't want to go. He delayed playing with his dog and didn't go upstairs as speedily as he normally would. And he went off to bed. The lady stayed up watching television, and at 12, she herself shut down to go to bed. What happened between that time and the death or execution of Batten, nobody knows. But to fill in, I think the assailant was already in the house. And as soon as they set up to sleep, they sprayed some substance that knocked them off because when Batten was hit, the lady didn't have any sense of what had happened until one of the other occupants came and started banging on the door. Banging, banging, banging. And it was difficult. She could hear the sound, but it was difficult for her to gain composure. And then she saw an image with a dagger, with a telephone. And the question was, what do we do with the lady? And he was standing over her with a knife. She pretended to be still asleep. She remained still. And I'm sure the answer to the accident was, well, leave her alone. Okay, and that's how the assailant left. And from the description of the assailant, we know that it was a two-man hit team. One Sabato, Dennis, and the other name is not. What is his name? I knew this other guy, another killer. He works along with Sabato Dennis. Maybe before the end of the show, I'll be able to tell you his name. But he said Logan Davis.
Logan Davis.
Logan Davis and Sabato Dennis. They were the ones who carried on that operation. She pretended to be sleeping. She was quiet there, still, of course, in a daze, but was very conscious. And then the banging went on the door, and she went out to see. In answer to the banging on the door, she went out, and Batten was lying there. And before she went downstairs to even look at the body, she started calling Norris Weah, who was the closest neighbor. She called him about a dozen times, and he didn't answer. He didn't pick the phone. And when she was going downstairs to see what has happened, she told the other fellows who were in the house, "Oh, this is a prank you guys are playing here. I'm not up for it. It has been a long night." So she just looked down and decided to go back upstairs. Then on second thought, she said, "No, but Batten is laying down there. He hasn't done this before. So it wouldn't be a prank. Go closer and see what's happening." And when she went, she noticed that he was gasping for breath and he was bleeding from the neck. And that's when she said, "Oh, we have to take Batten to the hospital." One of the occupants there said he noticed the blood, but he himself was trying to call a doctor to assist him what they should do. In that time, Norris Weah came in, as late as it was. And he came in and joined them who were trying to bring Batten to life because he was gasping for breath. And his contribution was, this guy has been drinking too much. This guy fell down. He injured himself. This is accident. And the lady question to him was, "You weren't here. How do you know that he fell down?" And on second thought, she thought to remain quiet thereafter. After asking that question, he had no answer. And so Norris Weah got the car ready and they put Batten in the car. And when she attempted to join the entourage to the hospital, he said, no, he shouted at her, said, no, this is man business. Stay back. She said, okay. Batten had an in-law there. She told him, say, well, join them. And they pulled off. And you wouldn't believe what happened. Somebody's in an emergency. You are taking him to the hospital. And then you stop the car. You get off and get on your phone for 20 minutes, calling whoever. He delayed for another 20 minutes. Batten was alive when he was put in the car. And then they left. When they got at the hospital, Samuel Twe was there waiting. Oremina Jara, Minister of Health, was there waiting. The fellow from the IRA, how do you call it now? IRA, the Revenue Service Institution was there waiting, and several others. Then again, the boys who went along with Norris Twe to the hospital, they told them to stay out. Batten was still alive. They put him out. And our suspicion is that being helpless, Batten was suffocated to death. All he needed to do, just put a pillow or whatsoever over his nose and his eyes. And then Norris Twe and the Samuel Twe and the other co-conspirators came out and said he was dead. At the house, Norris Twe arrived, showing no emotions. His close friend has just died. Or he just said Batten died. Showing no emotions. His close friend, the house they have been in all this time. He only asked for the car keys. He asked for the laptop. And he turned our deceased brother's room upside down looking for what nobody knows. But I assume he was looking for copies, hard copies of the audit report.
Of the audit report.
The audit reports, yeah. He turned it down. He didn't find it, but he took the laptop along with him and some personal belongings of Batten and made off. That is how our brother was killed. Logan Davis and Sabato Dennis.
I got a chill bone just coming on me as you explain. This audit report, I'm certainly sure, is in the public square. I mean, within the context of the international community, within the context of those of you who probably are advocates. Do we know what became of that report?
The report disappeared. 4 auditors and their boss was killed. And we haven't heard anything of that report again. Okay, and subsequently, the head of the GAC at the time also died, they say, of natural causes. Up to now, the government has not reported on the COVID fund. The government has not done a comprehensive report on the 30 million COVID fund and the road fund. There was some money they took out of the road fund or the consolidated accounts. Those were the 2 accounts those auditors were working on. We haven't heard anything about them. The reports have not been released. And it's a dead end there. When I heard of Batten's death, I went within the police, made my own contact. I said Batten left. My information was that Batten left the report in his room. not knowing all of this. And my contact said, okay, Counselor, we'll check and see. Only to come back and say, Counselor, we took a keen load and nothing was in his room. I said, not even the computer. At that time, I didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
I said, not even his computer. This police guy said, no, not even his computer is there. So that was a dead end. But I know there was a printed copy of the report. Whether he left it in his car or because he had intended discussing it with Samuel Twile. So I'm sure he had printed a copy. That's an assumption. And after now, the government is not saying anything and talking about what diaspora Liberians can do is to pressure the government. For example, we haven't heard about audit in a long time now. It's been 2 years. We haven't heard anything about audits. You
Not at
know,
all.
it's the kind of intimidation. So auditors will be even afraid to conduct audits because if you do audit, you'll be forced to turn your report around. So, the diaspora can demand, where is the COVID fund report? I know Darius Dayton was one of those who advocated for the state of emergency and the releasing of that funds for COVID. Are they not concerned about reports? What happened to that fund? And during the state of emergency, there were several people who died under the state of emergency. No report up to now.
Yeah.
And Darius Dayton is one senator who is heavily connected with the diaspora. So the diaspora should speak. Speak for answers to questions. Government should be transparent. There should be regular or periodic audit of government funds or government accounts. COVID has been gone more than 2 years now. What happened? What
That's
happened to the
correct.
money?
And yeah, those monies came from the international community,
Yeah,
and we need to know about what happened to them.
definitely.
This is just my moving conversation. It's remarkable to see where we are, counselor, where
Definitely.
Liberia is, and the ethical responsibility, the moral responsibility that we have to ensure that Liberia can return to normal. I think it's getting far worse where
Hmm.
we are. Every
Yes.
day there are arbitrary killings taking place. All of these stories that we see all of the time on the social media, even with the recent killing, I think the information is dying down concerning that of Chalomusu. And just as you indicated, the government is practically not going to do anything about it.
Of course.
The recent riot on the campus of the university, what has become of this land? What is George Weah? Does President Weah really understand what's happening in the country? I understand he's in the U.S. at the moment, and there've been speculations all on social media as to what the intent of this visit is. You work in the human rights cycle. You work in the diplomatic cycle. Do you have an inclination as to what's the purpose of this trip? What are we telling our good friends? We are people in exile, but we do pay taxes. We contribute in many ways to some of the very fundings that you are talking about when it comes to Liberia's development. I'm not even talking about the remittances that we send on a daily basis, trying to sustain our brothers and our sisters, our friends who have turned to what? Mere beggars, professionals. I mean, counselor, it's hard to comprehend. I returned from Liberia not too long. And I mean, professionals who are practically left to beg just to survive. It has to
And
change. It has to get better. We have to stand for something that is righteous. And my question as we go deep into this is what has become of the church? Last night I was wondering, I'm like, Bishop Marco Pacala Francis, Bishop Brown, and others. I surmise they are rolling in their graves to see what has become of the land. A voice of conscience that should be speaking to these issues. The Liberia Council of Churches is silent. The Muslim community, they are all silent. What has become of moral and ethical leaders in Liberia, Councillor?
the diaspora is also silent.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
true.
it's as if silence has crippled the nation. But people shouldn't be silent. We have very crucial elections coming. That's an opportunity to change things around. So the diaspora, as part of the conscience of our society, should begin to tell our people back home that you see what is happening, you are feeling it. If you put "we are" there, that would be a mistake. And what you are experiencing is going to be worse. And so you have to vote right.
Well, but these
And
elections, Councillor, would they be with everything that is happening with census, with everything that is happening with voter registration, with everything in the delayed tactics and everything with the Elections Commission? Are you certainly sure these elections will be free and fair?
I don't even think we have the conducive atmosphere for elections with all the killings, the intimidation, the lack of preparation by the Elections Commission, the insecure environment, the state of fear, and there are arms all around. Mr. Weah has brought in a lot of arms through his city mayor, and so they have different cells all around the country. Even if there's an election, it's going to be bloody, it's going to be terrible. They will kill our people because they want to silence people. They want to use fear and intimidation to coerce the people into submission so that when they execute their plans to cheat, there's two ways. They want to cheat. If they do not cheat, they don't want to leave power. So Weah has built up his private army already that is running parallel now to the state security and the military. There's a private army there to protect him and his people, to keep him in power if the military doesn't support him. That is the plan. So I don't think the environment is good, but I cannot say. And in the midst of all of this, he was told to come. I won't say invited, he was told, he was instructed to come so that he and all his chief lieutenants, just so he wouldn't say, oh, I need to consult the justice minister, they told him bring the justice minister along. So he wouldn't say, I need to consult the foreign minister, bring your foreign minister around, bring your chief of security. Because the situation is that Liberia is declining. A good percentage of the ex-combatants have been rearmed.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And they are now called out of retirement. They have been activated. So we have ex-generals of the war. You know, you are a general, it means you have killed people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's how you become general. You have to kill civilians more than one, but you have to commit a massacre, so to speak. All of them have been reactivated. They are armed. And at the very city hall, you have over 30 generals there. That's the kind of situation we have now. It's a dangerous situation. It's no peaceful environment. It's nothing conducive to peace and safe and free and fair elections. That is why the security threat is so high and the US is concerned. And I believe that's part of the primary reason why this young man was invited over here to come and sit with sound, reasonable people who are manning your security so they can expose to you the dangers that your reckless attitude pose to the United States and to your own people back home in Liberia. But all of this, in terms of advocacy, rests on the shoulders of the diaspora. Somebody said, and for me, I stopped sending money back home for a long time now.
That's right. That I think
Which,
that's one of the strategic stance we need to take. Don't
yes,
give anybody money anymore. I don't
yes,
do it.
tell our people when elections come, we will see the difference. If we are is not voted for, we can continue. But to support your hobbies, and most of you are still not seeing the reality, not facing up to
That's
the
right.
reality, I cannot. You
You
know.
live in denial. And I
Yes,
don't know what has become of the country. I think there's considerable trauma in Liberia
of
with
course.
the generation that is between 65 to 67% of the population over the past 20, 25, 30 years.
This,
The inactivities, the lack of education,
yes,
the lack of training. The
yes.
society has become so gullible, counselor, that
Beyond that, the
y-
apathy, people don't care,
that's right.
and it's like people have lost hope, in the political establishment, to the extent that people don't even care, but people should care because they are still alive and they have future for
That's
themselves
right.
and for their children and other people,
That's right.
and that's the situation. People don't care any longer. It's like the simple thing our people used to say, you leave the people thing. But this time, it's no longer the people's thing. It is all of us thing. And look how bad the country is. Nothing is working in Liberia. People are
No,
going in and coming out every now and then. It's deplorable
no.
from what
It's
we can,
complete hell.
you know.
It's complete
And
hell.
then
Yeah,
this
but
guy and his people just believe they should just steal money and enjoy themselves. They should just take money and enjoy themselves. In a country like Liberia, you have a private jet that you have to take $100,000 a month to maintain. What is that? How much
yeah.
money would be left for healthcare or for
No,
schools?
not at all. And it don't make any sense if you're spending $250,000 or more than that to fly from Liberia to DC on
Yeah.
a single trip.
Hmm.
And those delegates that you bring along, I mean, it's mind-boggling. And I think it's cruelty, it's ignorance. I don't
Yes.
know how we got here, but the reality of
No,
the matter is
we
that,
got them.
like you say, it has to change.
Yeah. We got there
It has.
systematically, and the fundamental problem, we refuse, especially government, to address the issue of the TRC report.
That's correct.
People don't want to be accountable. People want impunity to reign, and that's how we got where we are. You
That's
know,
right.
President
Yeah.
Salif made sure that Mr. Weah sits there because he guaranteed to her that I will protect you and your family. She asked her vice president, "Can you guarantee to protect me?" He said, "No." He said, "To protect you, the how? If I get there, where the law leads, that's where we follow. How can I protect you from what? You know,
It's sad.
it's
It's
very,
very
very
sad.
sad. And that's how we
Very
got
sad.
where we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr. Weah, who knows nothing about governance, who has not been accountable in his own life, who has not succeeded in anything apart from when he was using his legs and not his head, was put in charge. And now this is where we are. And that's common with dictators. Most dictators are ignorant. They are
Oh, yes.
uneducated.
Well, yeah, that's what the Bible reminds us. When the fools
Oh
rule,
yes, the
then we
people
know what
suffer.
happens. Yeah, the
Exactly.
people suffer. And I think this is a very interesting conversation. The next time we want to talk about the TRC when you come back. We know you have a very tight schedule.
Okay.
Time has caught up with us, almost hitting the 1 hour mark. Let me get a brief closing statement from you, Counselor. This has been a very fascinating conversation.
Thank you, sir. Many people wondered, with all that I go through, with all that I've been through, how do I manage? And it's God who reigns supreme in my life. And the support system He's given me is my wife. She's a firm believer and supporter of what I do. She's more of an advocate than myself, and God has been good to bring us together because without her support, I can imagine how I would have struggled in the midst of all of this, during all this investigation, on the line, on the phones with Liberia, getting information on a lot of things that is happening. Even though we are in exile, at the same time they are pursuing me left and right, trying to track me down.
Hmm.
And yeah, that's how I left New York. There was a hit on my house, and it was just by the grace of God. I escaped with my young son, just by the skin of our teeth, just minutes when I got the word. And as soon as we got out, they hit the house. So we're on our
Amazing.
yes, you
Amazing.
know,
Straddling
yeah,
revelation.
exactly.
Wow.
So we thank God we have managed to survive. Our health and everything is okay. We have our sanity, and God is still with us. But we believe in Liberians should not give up. There's a new Liberia that is coming. Before things get better. And what I tell people, it's like a woman who is pregnant and she's in the last trimester. Liberia is in the last trimester. I'm sure when we overcome this, the future will be better. We have better leaders. And you mentioned the late Archbishop Michael Francis.
That's right.
Yeah, he made a prophecy about what Liberia will go through. I don't know if you ever saw it. I saw it then, and I was looking for it, but I couldn't find it. Then somebody just sent it to me recently. Maybe I will share with you and you see what the late Archbishop said before he died. His last conference at the Vatican, he presented
Wow.
it.
But let us just briefly share with our audience. I mean, this is an educative moment.
Oh, I will give it to you so that you read yourself. But all he said is that the young people are clamoring for change, and there will be a leader from the east. He will be ruthless. He will be wicked. He will be evil. He will kill people, and he will reverse the trend of the country. But after all of that, an astute, that's the word he used, an astute leader will arise who will redeem the situation. you know, long time I saw that, and when these things started happening, the people started talking about it, and I was looking for it. And then recently, somebody from Liberia sent me a copy. I will send you a copy. So we
That would
shouldn't
be
give up.
great.
We
Yeah.
shouldn't
Yeah.
give up.
No, no,
God,
not at all. Not,
God loves
no.
this country. We've been through a lot of challenges before, including threats to our sovereignty. There were 3 different times Liberia almost lost her sovereignty. And you notice that Liberia is the only nation in the West African sub-region that is Christian,
Yep.
and a lot of
Yep.
countries surrounding us are all predominantly Muslim countries,
That's correct. Yep.
so God has preserved us for a reason. And one thing I will point out lastly, it will be part of our discussion the next time. You know that there was a clause Liberia was founded on Christian principles, and it was taken out of the Constitution when the 1986 Constitution was passed.
That's right.
And and that 1986 Constitution that denied that Liberia was founded on Christian principle has never worked for us. It was passed in
We need to
1986.
go back. We
Thank
need
you.
to go back to our roots. We need to go back. And that campaign was on. I
Yeah.
remember some of the pastors who were involved in that process trying to ensure that that was reinserted.
Hmm.
We have to revisit even the very constitution that we have.
Yeah.
There's just a lot that must be done.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the next time we have you, counselor, has been a quite a teachable moment, an enlightening moment, a moment that has just got all fiber of my being. I'm troubled listening
Yes.
to
You
all
should.
that you have said today.
You should
I'm
be.
just trying to consume. It's mind-boggling. But we want to thank you for the time today.
Thank
Uh,
you, sir.
we thank you for coming. We appreciate you all that you do for your country. We will continue to pray for you and pray for the family. Like you said, Liberia will rise again. And
Yes.
those of you who have been watching, listening all around the world and in the United States, we want to thank you for listening to us on this edition of Justice Forum. We come here each week talking about issues of ethics, justice, economic empowerment. We bring in scholars who talk about education, awareness, the need to make sure to create a level playing field. Today, we've been focusing on Liberia, the state of good governance, justice, and human rights. Councillor Jerome Verdier, Senior, happens to be the former chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, a staunch social justice advocate in the United States, fighting to liberate the people, the nation state of Liberia. He will be back here again. We will bring him because this has been quite a fascinating conversation. Want to thank you so much, Counselor,
Thank you, my brother.
for joining us. Let the peace of God be with you.
Amen.
And we want to wish you a wonderful week. You have a very tight schedule, but we are grateful that you could join us
Thank
today.
you, sir. Thank you,
Yeah.
sir.
And to our many listeners, our viewers all around the world. So long. Take care. God bless.